Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, Rolls-Royce has $500 million plans in Indianapolis. A marketing company compares its growth to a Marvel movie. We visit one of the state's architectural gems. The home of the Pacers and Fever has a new name. A cutting-edge brain procedure is coming to Indiana. Indy 11 is adding a women's team. And Indiana continues to be ready for regional growth. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. Rolls-Royce North America in Indiana has landed a coveted contract to build replacement engines for the U.S. Air Force's B-42 fleet. The deal is worth up to $500 million. Rolls-Royce Senior Vice President John Kasnerick spoke with Inside Indiana business host Gary Dick about the massive deal.
Put in perspective, a big number, $500 million, but the scope of this project, the B-52 program, which started in the 60s and has progressed through time, this was a big deal that was a long time coming. How long have you been in the works?
Several years, Gary. This has been a pursuit that started over 4 years ago, actually. It is a major win for the state of Indiana, major win for the city of Indianapolis, major win for Rolls-Royce. It really punctuates and amplifies that our decision to invest in the Rolls-Royce manufacturing facility some years ago, more than $600 million there, was really paid off. We're delighted.
I assume, because I thought about that when I saw this announcement, I remembering back to that massive investment, really transforming your manufacturing operations here in Indianapolis. Was that a key to winning this contract?
It was a factor. That advanced manufacturing capability allows us to build the engines very efficiently and adapt very quickly to the customer demand signal, which is important as you modify the B-52s with these new engines.
B-52, obviously an important part of America's defense structure. Give us an idea, John, of what will be taking place over the course of the next number of years through this contract.
Yeah, absolutely. We will start with a large engineering activity to integrate these engines onto the B-52. Fairly simultaneously, we will be producing the initial batch of engines, which will be used in flight testing, and then subsequently we'll move on to major series production in the course of the next few years.
Yeah, John, you mentioned what a big deal this is, $500 million, but if options are exercised over time, could be worth $2.6 billion, 150 jobs maybe or so initially as part of this. That number potentially could be more down the road?
Yeah, we've estimated that it's 150. It's over 100 starting very quickly. As the contract and project evolves, that 150 is a good estimate for us to move forward with.
John, you talked about the state, Governor Holcomb, the city of Indianapolis, and Mayor Hogsett, and their impact, their role, and this being a big win for Indianapolis, but also the state. Indiana really making a big push to get more defense investment here. I assume this win will be something that they can use to promote Indiana as a defense industry state.
Yes, absolutely. The advanced manufacturing of these advanced jet engines, I think, is a key building block in state of Indiana objectives for more defense work.
All right, very good. John Kasnerick, Rolls-Royce Liberty Works project, one of the key negotiators, key pursuit leaders in landing this $500 million contract from the U.S. Air Force. John, thanks for joining us. We look forward to talking to you soon.
All right. Thank you, Gary.
All right.
Austria-based Emarsis is a marketing tech company with its North American headquarters in Indianapolis. The company is comparing its vision for growth to Marvel's superheroes. CEO Joanna Milliken joined us to explain why.
You didn't grow up here, but you have strong technology roots here. I found this an amazing statistic. You were the employee number one, after the founders, employee number one at ExactTarget.
Absolutely. I have been here in the marketing technology scene since day one with ExactTarget. So really, really proud of that heritage. It's literally 20 years ago. in August that I started with ExactTarget. And just a mere 20 years later, here I am, CEO at Emarsis.
Yeah, CEO at Emarsis, a big job, and you're literally just now taking the helm. You come to Emarsis from the tech giant SAP, which acquired Emarsis. Talk about that role. Talk about your role, the vision you have for the company.
Yeah, absolutely. So Emarsis is fully owned by SAP, and SAP is a top 5 tech giant globally, powering 60%, I think, of the world's business in some capacity in the back office. And they acquired Emarsis here to be a part of the broader portfolio of their customer experience solutions. And it's just going to give us a lot more horsepower in the market and help us fuel our growth plans even more and faster than we could have on our own.
Yeah, Joanna, give us a thumbnail description of Emarsis. 4,000 plus customers, a lot of retail and e-commerce. What is it that Emarsis does?
Yeah, Emarsis stems from email marketing systems, and so it's a marketing technology platform. We provide marketers the ability to gather and collect data in a really permission and trusted way and use that to personalize their marketing campaigns across all channels. And so what we do with that platform, though, that's a little different than some, is that we're really, really hyper-focused as a team and as a product on those outcomes and really helping the marketers get time to value more quickly than they can using some other solutions. So.
As you look at your vision, you're just now getting into the role, certainly, but where do you see the direction, if you will, of Emarsis going on, the opportunities that you see in this really challenging environment when it comes to retail?
Yeah, it's a super challenging environment because, marketers, it's a tough time to be a marketer, and the average tenure of a CMO is the lowest it's ever been. And so our customers are stressed and really working hard to meet the demands of COVID and what's happening in the retail industry. And of course, then that presents opportunity for us to help them. So Emarsis has been growing on its own pretty significantly year over year. And again, with SAP, we can supercharge that growth, but also it gives us an opportunity to expand our reach. So we have an opportunity to extend into new industries, new geographies, and really bring our mission and bring that power back to the marketer, as we call it, more globally and all over the world than we already do today.
Yeah, final question for you, Joanna, as you look, and you've got great perspective on the growth of the tech ecosystem here in Indianapolis and more broadly in Indiana, but Emarsis is a great example of a marketing tech company, 100 plus employees, North American headquarters here, with SAP as the owner. SAP is another big tech player with an interest and a presence in Indiana.
Yeah, I think it says a lot, right, about what we have here in Indianapolis that I've been so proud of and trying to help grow for so long. They see the expertise that we've developed, particularly in the marketing ecosystem, but also the talent. So we have all that experience. We're still reaping the rewards from ExactTarget and Aprimo and Interactive Intelligence. And then you combine that with all the early talent we have from our great universities. It's just a perfect match. And SAP, doesn't make these decisions lightly, as you can imagine. And They were very deliberate about Indianapolis. So.
Very good. Joanna Milliken is the new CEO at Emarsis. Joanna, thanks very much. Congratulations on the new role. Look forward to having you on the show many times in the future.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Some have called it the eighth wonder of the world, and it can be found in the rolling hills of southern Indiana. Around Indiana, reporter Mary Rachel Redmond takes us to French Lick to check in on one of the state's architectural gems, the West Baden Springs Hotel.
It was once called the eighth wonder of the world, West Baden Springs Hotel.
For you today in 2021 to see this building, it is the exact size that it was when it was built in 1902.
This 200-foot dome, once bigger and more grand than any of the famous domes in Europe.
You can imagine people coming in up the front steps, walking into the lobby, and just looking up.
And being transported back to a fascinating chapter of Indiana history.
There was a reception for Eleanor Roosevelt held right here at the West Baden Hotel.
From political heavyweights to celebrities, West Baden drew the rich and famous from around the world. But the vision for this grand hotel was that of a Hoosier. a man by the name of Lee Wiley Sinclair of Salem, Indiana.
And he was the one who really saw it as being a great investment. There was a bicycle pony track that Mr. Sinclair had built. It was 1/3 of a mile around, but he built that to encourage professional baseball teams to come to West Baden for spring training.
The Chicago Cubs were the first in 1908, and in the years to follow, the Cardinals, White Sox, Reds, and even the Phillies used the West Baden grounds for spring training. And speaking of the grounds, West Baden encompasses 100 acres that still look very much the same as they did 100 years ago. The water.
The mineral water that made this place so famous, people came here just for that water because it would make them feel better.
Years later, it was discovered the highly sought-after water actually contained traces of lithium. So how many springs?
There were 4 springs on the property.
If I would have been here,
Yes.
when this was active, how would this have worked?
Okay, you would have entered, there would have been a platform, and there would have been a curved staircase on both sides to another platform, lower of course, and then a second set of steps to the basin, we call it, where the water actually came up naturally. This is the main original entrance of the West Baden Springs Hotel.
Wow. What is up top?
At the very top, we call that the drum. And inside that drum, where the girders have been riveted into, is the mysterious angel room.
And now we head up to the roof of the West Baden Springs Hotel. I feel like I'm in a different country. This is unbelievable. To see what very few get to see, a small room shrouded in mystery.
So coming down.
Wow. Oh, I can't even believe this.
Nobody knows who painted these angels, and it's been a mystery more than 100 years in the making. So there was talk about maybe some circus workers when the circus came in town, or some of the soldiers that came here when it was a makeshift hospital, but nobody knows how these got here.
Mary Rachel Redman, Inside Indiana Business.
The home of the Indiana Pacers, Indiana Fever, and all sorts of other events is now known as Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Dan Tauris, president and CEO of the Indianapolis-based digital platform company, came on the show to talk about the naming rights partnership.
Why do the deal? We're going to talk about Gainbridge in a moment. You've got a very high profile, a lot of big high profile events. What led you to invest in the naming rights for the Fieldhouse?
First and foremost, it was our relationship with the Pacers and the quality of that organization, Pacer Sports and Entertainment, what they mean to the community and really who they are. And then secondarily, the Fieldhouse itself. It's a premier facility, not just across the state, but across the country. And we couldn't be more proud to be aligned with them.
You mentioned the Fieldhouse and the job they do there. Numbers just hot off the presses this week. A report came out that put Bankers Life Fieldhouse, now Gainbridge Fieldhouse, in terms of ticket sales for the first 3 quarters of this year, second only to Staples Center in LA. So a lot happening coming out of the pandemic. And it's really going to be a totally reinvigorated, if you will, facility with this $300+ million renovation project.
Absolutely. When you consider that it compares to the Staples Center and the market in Southern California, that the Midwest could compete with that in terms of ticket sales, it just shows how busy the building is and how much of a gem it is here to have it in Indianapolis.
Hey, Dan, talk about Gainbridge and Group 1001. Give us kind of the business thumbnail description of the business and the operation.
Yeah, absolutely. So Group 1001 is a growing and thriving insurance enterprise that spans across retirement products, property casualty, and health. And we've got a strong track record of growth and performance, over the last decade. And so we're proud to support Gainbridge, our digital consumer platform that really helps connect consumers directly to financial products.
Talk about, this isn't your first foray into high-profile naming rights, presenting sponsor of the Indianapolis 500, a very high-profile position there to be sure. You've been involved very much with the LPGA. Talk about the things you think about as you go into these naming rights deals and what makes them the right thing to do for you, what makes them attractive.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it's going to be the partner. I think when you name the Speedway, you're talking about Penske, Entertainment Corp, Mark Miles, Doug Bowles, people like that. And, we're thrilled to be involved with IndyCar, and the Indy 500. But then it's also the reach that event has, whether it's the Indy 500 or now Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And so that gives us a tremendous platform, to really expand the recognition of Gainbridge. But again, to be able to do it with those class organizations and to be able to do it all right here in Indianapolis, we're very fortunate, to have those opportunities, and we certainly want to make the most of them.
Yeah, Dan, as we wrap up here, we were talking off camera. You really looked at this deal a few years ago, but felt as though the timing wasn't necessarily right. What made the timing right to pull the trigger this time?
Yeah, really a lot of things came together, but it's, from our standpoint, it's really the development of Gainbridge. It's been growing, nicely over the last few years, but a lot of our work has been behind the scenes to make sure it's the right platform and the right tool, for consumers. And I think when we look at what's going to be coming in 2022 in terms of new products, that are, very exciting, very good for customers, the timing is great to be able to use this platform, to launch that. But then when you add all the renovations at the Fieldhouse, the All-Star game that's coming in 2024, it's really quite fortunate how all the stars aligned on this deal for the perfect timing.
All right. Dan Towers is the president and CEO of Group 1001, Gainbridge. Dan, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on the deal. We look forward to seeing you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Community Health is one of the few health systems in the U.S., and the only one in Indiana, to offer NeuroVive, a non-invasive brain procedure to combat essential tremors. Neurosurgeon Jill Donaldson spoke with Kylie Valletta in the Business of Health.
Well, let's start with essential tremor. That's what this treats. Can you explain what that condition is?
Yes. So in terms of tremor, you usually group them into two categories. There's the essential tremor, which the tremor is worse when you go to use your hand, such as picking up a utensil or a glass of water, as opposed to a resting tremor, which is more pronounced when not using the hand and the arm.
And this can really be pretty debilitating in some cases, right?
It can. I mean, generally it starts fairly mild and it can progress over time. And, typically they start with medications and they usually control it for a while, but the tremor can progress even with medical therapy to where patients truly struggle to feed themselves. They can't drink a glass of water without chipping teeth. They can't dress themselves. It can be truly disabling.
Okay, so let's talk about what NeuroVive is. Can you explain it and give us the basics of how it works?
Sure. So the NeuroVive is a high-frequency focused ultrasound treatment. The way it works, most patients like to have their dominant hand treated, so we're actually creating a tiny lesion. In layman's terms, we're burning a tiny hole in the thalamus of the brain in a specific nucleus by using ultrasound, and it's where hundreds of ultrasound beams, where they crisscross, that creates heat, so it's a thermal ablation deep within the brain.
And I think go ahead.
And that's just the tremor center of the thalamus that we're treating to make the tremor go away.
Okay, and one fascinating part about this is that the patient is actually awake while you're doing the treatment. Can you explain how that allows you to make some adjustments?
Yes, it's imperative that they're awake, and it's very interactive. So we actually do this as a series of sonications. It's not like we set a target, hit a button, and we're done. We start with relatively low temperature, low frequency, kind of align the ultrasound, make sure that we like the spot size and shape, location, and then we gradually increase the temperature, and we can get into a temperature range where we'll see a reversible effect. So we start to see the tremor gradually getting better. We can also ask them if they're having any numbness or tingling anywhere, because if they are in their face or their hand, that actually helps us map a little bit and adjust the target a little bit to get the best possible outcome for the tremor. And then we just gradually treat the tremor, and they're on their back on the MRI table, and we just slide them in and out. I hold a clipboard and we test their tremor to have them draw pictures write their name, hold a cup of water, make sure that we really are getting the right positive effect and the tremor is getting better with the treatment.
So interesting. So just personally, as a neurosurgeon, does this have a pretty high cool factor for you?
Yes, it's off the charts. This is a really amazing new technology, and we're blessed in neurosurgery that there's always interesting technology, but this is extremely fun to do, and it's really rewarding personally. So.
And heard that the patients are coming from out of state, many of them, for this treatment, right?
That's true. So yeah, more than half of them do travel to Indiana, to Community North to have this done. There are not a lot of places in the United States offering it at this time, and some of the other places have a long wait list and we have a shorter wait list, so they can come here to have it done.
So what have some of the patients' reactions been after getting this treatment?
Some of them are tearful. I mean, it is something that, it's really hard to not have good use of your hands. And, if you can really improve that. And, the first thing they usually want is a cup of coffee, because we don't want them to eat or drink in the morning, and they can hold their cup of coffee and they're just really, I've seen a lot of adult tears of joy. It's really amazing.
So before Neurovive, how was essential tremor treated previously?
So, like I said, everyone starts with medical therapy, but in terms of, disabling tremor, we have deep brain stimulation, which is an implanted device. Before deep brain stimulation came along in the 1990s, you actually could do it the old-fashioned way, drill a small hole in the skull and pass an electrode and heat the tip of it up in the thalamus. And that was more of an open ablation procedure where you literally do pass an electrode and burn a tiny hole in the brain to make the tremor better.
So are there any other applications for this ultrasound technology?
So they do have like the high frequency ultrasound, which is what we're using to treat the tremor. They also have low frequency ultrasound. Some of the other applications are more experimental at this point. They have tried to use the high frequency because that's actually causing an ablation. They're tried using it for tumor treatments and other things. The low frequency ultrasound has the opposite effect. It actually improves brain function. So they have used that with memory and Alzheimer's kind of experimentally to help improve memory centers of the brain and things like that. I don't think that there's anything approved on that realm yet.
All right. Well, fascinating technology. Thanks for being on the show today and telling us more about it.
Thanks so much, Kylie.
When Scott Best took over leadership of Purdue Polytechnic High School in 2017, he set out to reinvent the high school experience for underserved students. The school recently celebrated its first commencement. Best joined us in our Eye on Education segment.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that commencement address for Mitch Daniels. He did get very emotional about things and about talking about the mission of Purdue Polytechnic and what's happening there.
Yeah, I think for him it was, the culmination of, going back 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago, the idea of the school and the mission, but then to actually see it front and center and right in front where he could shake those graduates' hand. That was a big deal for him and for all of us.
Well, talk about the mission and the idea. I know we did a story back at the time it was launched and have done several since, certainly. But the concept, the idea behind Purdue Polytechnic Institute.
Yeah, I mean, our general thesis, that in the state of Indiana, as is true nationwide, the number of low-income students and or students of color who are going on to post-secondary is really unacceptably low. And so our central thesis with this school was if we were going to get a different outcome, we had to do something fundamentally different at the high school level to change that experience, to change the aspirations, and to really make a difference in the lives of those students.
We'll talk about what you do that is different. Give us the model and what students experience at Purdue Polytechnic High School.
Yeah, I mean, really, from day one of the students' experience here, they start living through and learning through projects, hands-on collaboration with other students, working with industry partners, people that come in from the outside, where it's not just an advisory committee, but really part and parcel of the school. And that almost all of our academic learning is done in context, right? So that there's a way to learn, for example, higher end math, like pre-calculus, but taught through the lens of understanding climate change, right? So you can make the learning something that they are interested in, and then they'll learn the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah, the proof, the results are in the pudding, I guess, as they say. Talk about the number of students now, this graduating class, that are going on to four-year institutions, in particular Purdue, because that I know was part of the idea to begin with.
Yeah, right. That was one of the things that President Daniels wanted to solve, was how do you increase that pipeline? So we had a graduating class of 113 students. We had 48 of them who got accepted to Purdue, most of whom were either Black or Latino students. And then we have 37 of those 48 who actually are on campus as we speak today, taking classes and living the life of a Purdue freshman. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the expanding footprint of Purdue Polytechnic High School. You have a major location, campus, if you will, on the Near East side of Indianapolis, on East Washington Street, also a location in Broad Ripple and South Bend. So this is an idea or a concept that is growing.
Yeah, the idea of this, and really from the very beginning, President Daniels and the Purdue Board of Trustees, their understanding was, look, Purdue is a statewide institution, and so we need to have statewide locations. And fundamentally, wherever there are large pockets of students who are maybe not being served as well, and certainly where there's not huge numbers of low-income students and or, again, Black or Latino students who are going on to Purdue or into any other post-secondary institution.
Yeah, what about, are you looking for other expansion opportunities, locations elsewhere around the state?
Yeah, we are. We're looking at places around the state, again, where there's the right demographics exist, and also the outcomes of students in those cities aren't what it should be. And so we've got that going on now. We're looking to expand probably, not next year, but maybe the year after that, and then beyond the years beyond that as well. And it's no secret. It's really, if you look at the state of Indiana, you look at the big dots on the map, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. As we wrap up, Scott, I know this success story, if you will, is being documented, chronicled in a documentary that will be released soon. Talk about that.
Yeah, so Purdue University wanted to say, look, you have the macro level view of, here's the number of students and all those things, but they also wanted to get personal. And so they followed 3 students through their senior year of school with us, and then their transition to campus. And that documentary is getting released by Purdue here in the next couple of weeks in October.
All right, Purdue Polytechnic High School, Executive Director there, Scott Best. Scott, as always, great to see you. Congratulations on the success, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Appreciate it, Gary. Thank you.
Women will soon be taking the field as part of Indy 11 professional soccer. The club has announced plans to field a women's senior team in the pre-professional USLW League. President and CEO Greg Stremlaw spoke with Bill Benner on Inside Indiana Sports.
Let's start off talking about this announcement about the women's team. It's called a women's senior team, but pre-professional level. If you could kind of give our viewers just kind of what that all means.
Yeah, we're excited by it. Again, it's something Indy Sports and Entertainment has bought. We've purchased a new women's franchise. As you say, it is pre-professional. There'll be a lot of collegiate athletes, all-stars. It'll also be open to other high-level women's soccer players. It'll start next year. Season right now looks to be about mid-May to mid-July, so not a very long season, a couple of months that really augments the women's sport calendar for a lot of those collegiate level players. We have not yet announced team name, logo, or the venue, but those details will be forthcoming. But as I say, this is something we're excited about. I think it shows our commitment to the sport of soccer, both men and women, and serves as a great prelude to professional women's soccer once we do get to 11 Park opening.
Yeah, and Greg, again, everybody's familiar with the U.S. women's national team, certainly in the World Cup, Olympics, but then women's opportunities, they seem to just kind of go away, and I know that the league is very interested in trying to fill that void and provide this developmental level for women across the country.
They are. And quite frankly, we believe that at the time that we'll launch next year will be the highest level of women's soccer in this state. And again, it'll be a great springboard to showcase these wonderful athletes, so many of which will want to go on to professional ranks. And we think this is another opportunity for them to do so.
Name and logo still to be determined and announced sometime down the road, I understand?
Correct. We do have some really good plans around that, but stay tuned for further information.
This is part of a larger strategy by 11 Sports and Entertainment, as you mentioned, as we look hopefully down the road toward 11 Park. But I know you've embraced youth soccer. Certainly you have the 11 competing in the USL. But this is part of a larger strategy to continue to grow soccer throughout the community and the state of Indiana.
It is, and a lot of people aren't overly aware. But last fall we announced a youth development program of 15,000 kids across the state. We've got 9 or 10 youth clubs that are now fully affiliated with Indy 11 and wearing those jerseys and part of our partnership program. That's a grassroots feeder system for the future, and we think this W League for the women is again another great stepping stone. We also are currently involved in the United Soccer League Academy series, which we refurbished a U19 boys team as well. So we continue to grow the ecosystem for the great sport of soccer, and again help building the community.
The Indy 11 USL Championship season still going on. I think you have 3 home games left downtown at the Mike Carroll Stadium. So, and again, I know you've made some roster additions, so you're hoping for a late season push toward the playoffs.
We are. There's no doubt we have not been as consistent as many of us would like. We feel we've made some great investments in players in the roster, but at times we just haven't been able to put it together. Definitely have been hit hard by injury bug, so to speak, but no excuses. As I think you and I have talked about, we've been one of the busiest teams in the country here at the roster freeze deadline, and we signed 3 brand new players, 2 of which were inserted in the lineup last night, actually, Kevin Pardita and Toby, with previous experience in both Pittsburgh and Phoenix. And we've also signed the former MVP of the league, Emmanuel Ledesma, who is from Argentina, and he'll be joining us this weekend. So we're doing everything we can.
Just say, as we wrap up, I just want to touch briefly, we mentioned 11 Park, and certainly that's still very much a part of your long-term plans for 11 Sports and Entertainment.
It absolutely is. Vision hasn't changed. Listen, there's no secret. Pandemic has made things difficult on a lot of projects, ours included. But the front burner is starting to see 11 Park being brought back, and right now almost all of our efforts are around land acquisition and finding the final premium site location for us to move toward shovels in the ground.
Well, Greg Stremlaw, the 11 president and CEO, thanks for being on the show. Get down to Mike Carroll Stadium, watch the finish of the 11th season. We look forward to women's soccer here next year.
And finally this week, Thomas P. Miller and Associates is a consulting and management firm that's been around for more than 30 years. The company is playing a big role in Indiana's Regional Economic Acceleration and Development Initiative, or READI. President and CEO Thomas P. Miller joined us with details.
Just a bit about your company. You formed the company in 1989, so you've been around for a while, working economic development and related projects with cities and towns and universities and community colleges, not just here in Indiana, but around the country.
Yes, we've always believed that regional economic development is where the action is, and we focus heavily on how do you get talent, education, workforce systems integrated and working together with their economic development.
And those issues are so important, certainly here in Indiana. And as we look at these READI grants, and again, Regional Economic Acceleration and Development Initiative, kind of the Regional Cities 2.0, if you will. Talk about the idea here, really what the goal is, because I know the applications for these regional projects are due right now. What is the READI program all about? It's $500 million that will go to communities around the state.
Yes, I think it's a very visionary initiative announced by Governor Holcomb and IEDC earlier in the summer. It's focused on really bringing talent attraction efforts to Indiana and the regions, and accelerating a focus on innovation and entrepreneurism.
Yeah, and I guess a couple of things there. Talent, that's the big challenge, trying to keep people here and attract people from outside of the state. So these quality of life, quality of place projects that are going to be part and parcel of these READI grants, that's a key to making that happen.
It's very critical. Talent moves to where jobs are, but talent also goes to communities and regions that have amenities and arts, hiking trails, a variety of other things that people want to have where they live as well.
Tom, you've been around for a while and have seen a lot around the state of Indiana. From my perspective over the years, Indiana has not done a great job of working regionally, collaborating as regions around the state. Do you see some improvement in that? I mean, I have, and certainly this program, this initiative, really tries to foster that regional cooperation.
Yes, I think over the years we've seen Indiana more and more embrace regionalism. I think the energy coming out of the original regional cities that you mentioned has carried forward here, which really helped, I think, convince legislators, the governor, and others to make this major investment.
Yeah, Tom, talk about how substantial these grants can be for some communities, because, as I mentioned, $500 million is on the line here to be distributed throughout the state. But when you look at the leverage by private investment, could be in the billions of dollars.
Yes, it's estimated that this $500 million investment by the state will be matched on really almost a 4-to-1 basis by the private sector, by other sources of funding. And I know that's a metric that IEDC will carefully consider as they evaluate the proposals they receive later today.
Yeah, as we wrap up, for those who may not be familiar, give us an idea of some of the projects. Don't necessarily have to get specific, but some of the kinds of projects that we're going to see come out of these proposals.
Well, as an example, 2 or 3 different ones I'll give you. 1150 Academy has been embraced by several regions, and that's an effort that regions want to try to grow and educate more technology talent. 180 Skills has been embraced by a couple of regions in southern Indiana to really take advantage of some of the online learning and competencies that come out of that program. Hancock County, where I live, is really focused on a major initiative between the 4 school systems on career tech ed. So those are just some examples.
Great examples. A big program. We'll learn the winners, if you will, coming up here before the end of the year. Tom Miller, the CEO, the founder of Thomas P. Miller and Associates. Tom, always great to see you. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Gary. Good to see you again.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state, at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.